Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for our second Conversations About Death. Every month I'm going to interview somebody who I think is really exciting and interesting that works within the field of death and grief and loss and dying. And this month I am absolutely thrilled, I'm very excited actually, to introduce to you all Meri Griesbach. Now, I actually met Meri through a women's business group, I guess we could say. We share the same business coach, and I didn't realise when I reconnected with Meri at that point that we actually have a history. So Meri said to me, well, Michelle, I actually already know you because you officiated my mum's service, and that was in 2017. So that was a really nice platform. Moving forward, I learnt that Meri is now a grief art therapist.
Yeah, I'm an art therapist, transpersonal art therapist, and I work in trauma, grief and life transitions.
Beautiful. So, and she's also very recently an author of the most amazing book. I'm only halfway through, to be honest, because I have to read it, have a drink, have a bit of a cry, and then read it again. But I do, you trigger me. This is Meri's amazing book called Creative Rebel. She had her book launch on Saturday night, so Rick and I were very privileged to have been invited, and we came along, and I just think Meri has a really interesting story personally and professionally. So I thought, a lot of you messaged me after the first one that we had with Helen Roberts, our death doula, and I put up a post saying, tell me what you want to know, tell me what you want to hear about. And I got a lot of messages with people saying, you know, Michelle, death and dying can be, you know, really lovely and fluffy. It can also be really gritty and gutsy and hard. We want you to interview someone that has been through trauma, that has experienced deep-seated, really difficult grief, and that's come out the other side. And then we want to hear from them what they did to move forward. So that's why I've picked Meri. So do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your life and what led you to
to becoming an art therapist and doing what I do?
Great.
So I've got quite a long history with domestic violence and all sorts of stuff that goes back many, many years, and it impacted my children. And during those years, I also lost my sister. She was tragically killed in a fiery, horrible car crash. And it was a huge shock to our family. The fallout from that was pretty massive, and my mum never really recovered from that.
It's hard, isn't it?
And she lived with suppression. So her coping mechanism was, let's not talk about it. Let's just pretend it didn't happen.
And that
let's not upset the children.
Doesn't work, does it?
No. And so she suffered her whole life after that. So that was back in 1986. So until she was 91, back in 2017, she really suffered with that. And in 2005, fast forward from 1986, my son committed suicide. So it was another big blow to the family. It was completely unexpected. None of us really had the tools with which to deal with it. And the fallout was pretty massive.
That's the most harrowing thing you can experience, Meri.
Yeah, and it was a long process too, because I wasn't able to see him after he died for a full week. Because he was in the hands of the coroner. Yeah. So that was awful. I had all these images in my head. What does he look like? You know, are they treating him with respect?
Are they looking after him?
Are they? All those things. And so I had these images that I couldn't remove from my mind until we had a chance to view him before the funeral. And then to top that off, it was almost 16 months before we had the coroner's report handed down.
It does.
So we didn't actually know if there were drugs involved, if there was anyone else involved. We had no idea what the circumstances around the actual act.
Did that give you a sense of peace when you actually did get the final report, or was it still a bit general and generic?
No, it wasn't general. It was good because it did put some context to it, in the sense that we knew he had no drugs in his system, so that was one thing. He was clean. The other thing was that the coroner, or the autopsy, revealed that he actually had a tumour on his thyroid, and now there's the question, was that affecting
that
his
trigger?
moods?
Yeah,
Was, so was there something more to this that we didn't know? And did he know that he had cancer? Like, did he know?
Oh, wow.
We don't know whether he knew because he never shared that with us.
Yeah.
So there's lots and lots of unknowns.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, probably the hardest thing to come to terms with suicide is all the what ifs and the whys and the I don't understands and all the questions around it that never get answered, and coming to terms with that is really, really hard. And his cousins, I mean, he was 23, he had a 3-year-old son when he passed, and we still have contact with him, thank goodness. He's the light in our life. His brother and his cousins, though, really struggled to come to terms with it all, and it actually really, we said it rocked the hill, because where we lived on this kind of, we lived in an area which was quite hilly, but all the boys and kids on the hill knew each other. So it was kind of all his contemporaries from school. They all just kind of gathered at my house and told their stories of Luke and wanted to touch back. And
you held space. For him, you held space.
Yeah, and it was kind of, it was a real wake-up call to them, that, you know, they realised that they might feel like they're alone, but look how many people loved Luke and he didn't know.
Were you a bit overwhelmed by that, to know that many people sort of
I was just
wanted
overwhelmed
to support?
in general.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was completely overwhelmed anyway.
Were you numb?
But it was heartwarming for me to have those boys around, you
Yeah.
know, to tell me all those lovely stories about
Yeah.
Luke that I didn't know about. You know, the
Yeah.
times that he'd helped them, the times he'd been, you know, there to support them,
Yeah.
you know, the wonderful side of his nature that they saw that I hadn't seen for quite some time, because our relationship was quite rocky when he passed.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice to have that connection. But yes, I was numb. And I think the biggest message I want to give people is that don't be afraid to feel. Don't be afraid of those
That's
emotions.
the hard part,
They are
because you don't know what to feel. You don't know.
No.
And then there's that expectation of what should I be feeling, and
whatever
how
you're feeling in the moment is what you should be feeling.
Yep.
And
Perfectly said.
you know, the thing is that after I lost Luke, one of the first things that happened was, of course, I saw the doctor. And when I wasn't bouncing back very quickly, the doctor wanted to say, well, you're depressed. Understandably depressed, you've lost your son.
Yeah.
So he medicated me in order to make me what they call functional.
How was that?
So the problem with that is that it suppressed everything. And so, yes, I was functional.
You
I
couldn't
got back to
vent.
work.
You couldn't.
But I ended up having quite a severe breakdown because of it. So I got to the point where we were walking, to give you an example of what happens, I had suppressed so much and was trying to keep it all together for my other son, who was 17 at the time, and my mother, who wasn't coping because she had all this background.
You were trying to be everybody else's rock.
Exactly, and eventually it got too much. And I can remember this occasion, and it's in the book, where I walked through the shopping centre. My husband and I would go shopping together because I wasn't functioning enough to do it myself. And I can remember actually walking through the mall of the shopping centre and just stopping. My feet just stopped, and I was just standing there. And it was like I was in suspended animation.
I've just got to that part in the book too.
And it was like I was in this bubble, and everyone else was moving around me. Life was going on, but I was completely dissociated from it all.
Yeah.
And I know that my husband must have seen me, because he grabbed my arm and he took me straight to the car and took me home. And I think, I don't really remember, but I think I slept for about 2 days.
Yeah.
And again, the doctor came, gave me medication.
Let me medicate you. Yeah.
And I suppressed again, and I continued to suppress and then I went back to work again, and this cycle continued.
So this was quite cyclic, and it was just,
until it got to the point where it was unbearable.
Yeah.
And my body stepped in and said, stop. So
listening to your
this
body.
is the mind and body connection. If you deny your feelings and you don't allow yourself to feel and to express and explore those feelings and come to some kind of understanding about them, they will manifest in your body, and you will end up with chronic illnesses, immune problems, headaches, all sorts of things. And so I ended up actually taking a disability package from work.
Wow.
Because I was having, in the month, 17 migraine days every month.
Wow.
And
that's debilitating.
They were to the point of taking me to hospital kind of migraines.
Wow.
Like I was that bad that I wouldn't stop vomiting. So they were really severe, and then I ended up with an arthritic condition, which is tied up with chronic fatigue and all those sorts of things. So this is what happens if you don't.
It's interesting you say that, because I have an autoimmune disorder, and if I get extraordinarily stressed, I get thinning hair, and I had psoriasis and a few gut health, and I've had some significant loss and trauma in my life. And as I I like to think it was bravely sharing on Facebook the other day when I realised for the first time in 18 years I'd actually forgotten my dad's birthday. And initially, it's funny that you say that, because initially I thought I should feel really guilty, and then I messaged my baby sister. And she said, well, I sort of knew I was a bit off, but I got home and I remembered too, but it wasn't the beginning of the day crying and like I set myself up with this on anniversaries and birthdays. So I'm actually going to take some of my own medicine, and I've actually booked in to do a session or a few sessions with Meri to try and deal with a lot of things. I mean, I'm a celebrant. I have had grief and trauma in my life, and I've sort of done no, I'm not going to talk about it, because then if I have to talk about it, I have to deal with it. And I want everybody to know that I'm a really happy, bubbly person. That doesn't change who I am. But I also, for my private clients with my end-of-life companion work, would like to incorporate doing a program with Meri in part of their package. So that's what we've been discussing.
Yeah, because you have that feeling sometimes when it's bubbling up and you think, oh, will it stop? Yep. Like, what if it keeps going and I can't function? It's like hot tears that come up from here into your throat, and then you swallow them down, and you're like, whew, that was close. And my dad's death was a shock. I've sort of shared this before. He was 52 and went very unexpectedly, and I had a 6-week-old baby when he died. I never really dealt with it, and it took me 6 years to get over the shock of his death. And you've got to. I never held space for myself. No. I held space for my sisters and my family and my dad's family, but I never held space for myself. It's what we're conditioned to do, isn't it? Put ourselves last. We're conditioned to be, by default we're not worthy because everyone else is more important than us. So we tend to allow all of that to just tumble in on us, and we bear the weight of the world on our shoulders for other people. And that means that sometimes we're neglecting our own self-care. And I mean, I know the answer to this question because I'm already halfway through the book. But can you share? Happy ending, folks. It does. And look, it's just, you will be, I get a bit teary thinking about this. You will be absolutely gobsmacked when you read what this woman has overcome and how she's come out of it the other side intact. We've become friends more recently, and I sort of have got to know Meri, and Rick and I have got to know Meri and her husband. And I'm reading this book, and Rick says to me, what? And he said, I'm just literally sitting there going, I need a tissue. I didn't know all that about you. No. I didn't know your story. So, as I said, I know what the answer to the question is that I'm asking, but they don't, because they haven't read your book yet. But what was the turning point for you? What was it that you did to help you move forward? So how did that all come about? The turning point for me, so I went through lots and lots of counselling. I had tried psychotherapy, I tried psychiatrists, I tried counsellors, I tried group sessions, I tried Facebook groups, I tried Did anything resonate with you? Look, they did at the time. Little bits of lots of different things? At different times, different things did to a certain degree, so they all got me to a certain point along the continuum. Okay. But there was a point where all the talking about it and all the expressing that I was doing in these groups and with psychiatrists got to a point where I wasn't moving forward anymore. I was just retelling and re-traumatising myself. So just going over the same ground without any progress. And that's not healing. That's putting more salt on the wound and just going. Absolutely. It'll work. Yeah. And so what happened was the turning point for me was when I gave up work. And I spent some time really going deep and just self-reflecting and trying to get a handle on what it all means for me, what life means for me, what losing Luke meant for me, what in the spiritual sense as well as a personal sense, like where is he? What is it, you know, what does this mean?
Yeah.
I was really casting about for something that gave meaning to my loss.
Yeah.
And during that time, I got in touch with some spirituality and all sorts of things. And I was asking for signs. I was really screaming for signs. You know, is he okay? Is he all right? Where is
Sorry everyone, we dropped out. The wonders of modern technology or lack thereof. I told you all this would be raw, unedited and live. So Meri, we were saying, you know, you got to a point where you were wondering, you know.
Yeah, I was really casting about for some spiritual guidance about where Luke was. Is he okay? Is his spirit somewhere, you know, being looked after?
Yeah.
And so I was really screaming for a sign, and I had a vision, and it was a waking dream really that, and I didn't tell anybody about this for a really long time because I thought they'd all think I was barking mad, but it was just a vision of this giant, enormous eagle that came down to me.
Wow.
And he flew right down beak to nose with me and looked dead in my eyes, and he said, "It's okay, we've got him." And I tell you, it just dripped off me, the relief. But then I needed to somehow express that. That was such a profound and sacred moment for me.
Acknowledge that and get that out.
And it was just unbelievably profound and strong for me. So just by chance, my mum and I were walking about one day, and we came across an art gallery where they also ran art classes. But they weren't art classes like everybody draw an apple and everybody has to do it. It wasn't technique based at all. It wasn't about creating everyone doing the same thing. It was about bring along a project and we will help you achieve it.
So a little bit more flexibility and freedom in, okay.
And I said, this is it, this is what I need to do. So I told them about my vision, and I ended up with, and I'll share a photo with you so you can put it up if you like.
Yes, please,
of
that would
my
be great.
eagle. I painted this eagle that came to see me, and that scene, and it was 2 meters wide by 1.5 meters high. And
you were going all out, weren't you? Not a little tiny.
It was a big moment.
It was a big
It
moment.
needed a big expression, and it took me months to do it, much longer than it actually needed to do. And this is my point. It took a long time to work through that image, and it wasn't anything to do with about making it perfect. It was all the things that were going through my mind as I was painting. All of the processing that was going on in the back of my mind while I gave myself the space and the time to really indulge in this catharsis of painting this image. And it took me months and months and months to do it. I didn't need that long, but it took that long because I had a lot to work through.
Wow.
And while I was doing that, one of the instructors was studying art therapy. So she was studying to be an art therapist.
Right.
And she told me what she was doing. And so she used me as a bit of a guinea pig.
Good
while
guinea
she
pig.
was,
Good opportunity.
And I thought, this is it. This is the answer. Because I don't have to tell anyone anything. It's all about what's happening in me. And it was all about just expressing it and getting new perspectives and understanding it from my own perspective.
Wow.
And I didn't need to say a word. I didn't need to go rehashing all my pain. My pain was very real and very raw, and I was able to process it in a way that didn't need words. And to me, that was incredibly profound.
Oh, wow.
So for 8 years, I hung on to that because I couldn't afford to do the art therapy course, but I could see so much value in it for people like me who had been through all the normal channels of therapy and were stuck and not getting anywhere. And I thought,
it wasn't for you. It wasn't helping you move forward with your grief.
And so there was a real gap in my healing where it wasn't being addressed. And art therapy was filling that gap. And I thought, this is it. There must be other people out there like me who have got to a certain point with their healing and can't move forward. And they're finding the spoken word, not adequate for what they need. So the idea of me becoming an art therapist in the grief sector was born. And in a legacy to my son, I came up with the idea of Luke's hut, which is going to be this is my big audacious hairy plan. It's going to be a communal centre where people can come and indulge in art, have some support, and connect with other people going through the same journey as them.
Because you never know what someone else is battling.
Yeah, exactly. So Inner Sea Creative Counselling is the beginning of that, which is my studio.
So please make sure you go on and like Meri's page, and I'll make sure that we do some links and things on there for you.
Yeah, and you know, I run now workshops for people who are going through life transitions and grief. And because I've been in the trenches, I'm there ready to extend a hand to help other people out of the trench. Yeah. So.
And so with people that haven't, I mean, I didn't know about art therapy, and so it's what I've learned from Meri is it's not just this is the program that I have, you come in and do this. It's tell me your story, and then tell me how do you view that? How do you feel that? How does that taste? How does that?
Yeah.
How do you see that? And then you devise something that you feel would.
Yeah, it's not even tell me my story, tell me your story. It's really, sometimes I have people and they don't tell me anything. They don't tell me.
Is that hard?
Not really. No, because it's
about,
it's about offering them a safe space and just holding space for them while they explore. So once people get the idea that they can express and explore here in a safe way, you'll be surprised how easily it comes out, because it's the unspoken language that we have is very powerful. And body language, we use movement, we use colour, we use all kinds of art materials.
Wow.
We use some unconventional art materials, like today we had orange juice in the mix. You know, we have all sorts of things going on, and people are able to come along and say and work through things that are just hard to talk about, that they just don't have the words for. And that's the wonderful thing. You've
been there and you've done that. You know exactly how that feels.
So, you know, I offer you, if you were to come to me, we would work on, I would be more focused on what is it that you hope to achieve from therapy.
Right.
What is your end goal? What would life be like if this problem, whatever it is, is fixed?
Right. Wow.
Right? What would your life be like? And then we work towards, okay, what needs to happen between now and there? And then we work on a program to get you there.
Wow. I said to Meri when I came in, I said I was thinking about this morning before I did a service, and I thought, I'm a professional speaker. I talk for a living. My dad used to say I could talk the leg off an iron pot. So I thought, this will be a piece of cake. I'll be able to come in and blah, 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 and get it all out. And you sort of walk in and you go, I'm a very sort of, neat, tidy person. Everything's in a compartment, and I've put that away quite nicely up on that shelf and that on that shelf, and we're going to get all these boxes off these shelves and look into them. It's a bit.
In art therapy, we would literally take boxes and look into them.
Wow.
We would literally take that metaphor, and we would turn them into an action.
Wow.
For you to unpack, unfold, look in, explore.
Wow. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to engage Meri professionally. I would like to see what it is that I'm going to offer my clients, and if any of you are interested, and depending on what we come up with, I'm happy to share my experience and talk about what it was like. But if anybody's watching Meri and says, look, I want to explore this, or I'm not sure if this is for me, what should they do?
The best thing is to just get in touch with an art therapist like me. It doesn't have to be me. I'd like it to be me, but it doesn't have to be me.
Please make it Meri. She's beautiful.
The wonderful thing about it is that it's being heard without saying a word. So, you're really, truly being heard. Your deepest, darkest parts are being heard and witnessed and honoured and supported. So my advice would be to, get in touch with an art therapist. Give them a call. Have a go, and go with an open mind. Just be prepared for anything, and not come in with a preconceived idea that I want to draw this.
Yeah.
Because quite often in art therapy, it's a very organic process, and it might be that you come in with one thing in mind, and we end up doing something
else
completely different.
Wow.
Yeah. So please just reach out. Reach out. Don't sit on it for years like I did and get sick. Reach out and understand
and it
that
can, unresolved grief can manifest in your health. if you don't let it go.
Absolutely.
You know, it's the saying Frozen, let it go. It's a
Yeah.
very powerful...
Yeah, totally. And so if people are suffering out there, I really, really implore you to look after yourself. Put yourself first for once.
Yeah.
And understand that you can be much more helpful to others if you are in a good place. And
You heard it from the master, guys.
So
Wow. I was nervous when, you know, Meri and I were actually at a networking night, and we were just having this banter where we over the table, and I said, oh, well, I should really look at doing this. And she just sort of gave me this look and went, I think you should. And I went, are you kidding, or are you really thinking? She said, yes, I think you should. So I started talking to her, and as I was talking to her, I can feel this sort of hot wealth of whatever it was coming up, and I went, oh, that's okay. There's obviously still some things there with regards to grief that I thought there wasn't.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting process, because once you start to really honour that and start to give it the space that it needs, that's when the healing begins.
I might have to bring my sleeping bag and a thermos.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I've got an air mattress.
We could spend days here together. Mary's like, that sounds really tempting and exciting.
It does actually.
a bit of a sleepover art therapy.
Well, you know, I do have workshops that I run every now and then that are overnighters.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes we'll do an overnighter, and it'll be a really deep dive, and it will be with a bunch of people supporting each other, and we will do some group dreaming together, and we'll do some meditations together, and we'll do all sorts of art
Is this
therapy
just
type
me,
stuff.
or does this sound amazing?
So yeah, and you'll be held and nurtured throughout the process.
Well, the whole point about me coming up with the concept of conversations about death is that I'm on a mission to change the way we talk about death, because as a community, I don't think we do death particularly well.
Hallelujah.
We do it even less well with our children. And I want to start shaking things up. I want people to start having the conversation that no one's having.
Absolutely.
So
this is my mission too, and this is why you know, I talk about my son, and I talk about his suicide. I'm not afraid of the suicide word. I'm not afraid to say that my son died, and I can say that now without falling in a heap, because I've done the work.
How long did it take you to get to that point,
Oh,
Meri,
a long time.
before you could say
A long time, because I suppressed it for so long.
Yeah.
I think if I had been allowed, you know, when I had that breakdown and I had that dissociated state, if I had been allowed space and support to just work through that in my own time, and not have the pressure of, oh, you should be earning money, you should be holding up your end of the bargain, and you should be supporting your children.
helpful stuff that you really don't need to hear at that point.
If I had really truly been given the space and the support to just feel my way through that, I think I would have come out of it much sooner.
So what sort of time frame are we talking from that moment compared to when it actually did happen?
Oh, years. It was years. Like when that happened to me, it was probably a year, 6 months to a year after Luke died.
Right. Okay.
Maybe
so
a year after Luke died.
Yeah.
And then, then it was like just trying to do the right thing, you know, trying to be functional. And what happens when you have a major event in your life like that is that all your parameters of what's normal functioning get changed, and what you believe is all the things you believed about what you should do,
Are they challenged?
they are all challenged. All your
Yeah.
belief systems are turned on their head, and you start to think, well, hang on, have I had my priorities all in the wrong place? I mean, has that led me to this point? You know, I've been concentrating so much on this when actually I should have been focusing on that. And so you totally change what your definition of functional is, whatever that is for you. I will tell you, whatever that is for you is right.
And grief is individual. There's no textbook
100%.
way of, there's no time frame. There's no, look, here you go, this is how you do it.
No.
It's an individual experience.
Absolutely.
And you've got to do it at your own time, at your own space,
It's an
your
organic
own
process.
way.
And, you know, one thing leads to another. And when you talk about, you know, I'm not functioning, what does that actually mean for you? Are you not functioning by someone else's definition or by your own? Is it because you're not fitting in with society's requirements of you? Or is it that voice that's going on in your head, you should, you know, I should do? Or is it what's truly deep in you that feels right? And when you can tap into that, then the healing begins.
Voila. Wow. Well, I will make sure. Thank you, Meri, for being so interesting and honest. And you know, a lot of the things that Meri talked about today were really hard. And I think that, you know, it's because of people like you that aren't frightened to have that conversation that makes people feel that are watching, wow, somebody else actually understands what I'm feeling. I'm not completely alone. So if somebody if you want to reach out to Meri, you want to buy her book, you want to come and do some of her courses or to engage with her with art therapy, we'll make sure that we have the links on the page. Meri, what's your website address, just so that on our YouTube channel people can...
it's innerseaCreative.com.au.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. And people can buy your book from
They
your
can go
website?
on the website and buy the book. And under Books and Resources, you'll see a tab there. You can hit that and you can buy the book direct through there.
It's as I said, I'm only halfway through. I tried very hard to get it finished before we were meeting, but it wasn't to be. And I don't want to rush it. It's quite a process for me.
I do say in the book, take your time.
You do. I had these visions of reading it all the way through, and then in the first few pages, Meri actually has, this is not a book that you're going to read all the way through. And I went, damn, she must have read my mind before I picked up this book. She said, read it, process it. There are sections in the book where you can write your own thoughts and then come back to it and pick it up. And unintentionally, that's actually what I've done.
Yes.
So I'm really... I'm gobsmacked, and I love the picture on. I'll just give you all another look because I just think that this is just absolutely amazing. Look at that. So what was your thought process behind the cover of your book, Meri?
I wanted something that showed creativity, obviously, but also I wanted something that showed vulnerability and bravery, courage.
I think it does all of that.
So my friend and I got together and I said to her, look, I just want you to chuck paint at me.
Did she go, I'm glad
she said, yeah, let's do it. She's a creative as well.
Yeah.
So she and I spent the day in my studio here and she just put all sorts of iridescent powders and stuff at me until we came up with something that looked right. And then she just took photos and voila.
Thank you. And look, I'm enjoying these monthly conversations. Thank you, Meri, for
having me on,
being our guest. I knew that you would all absolutely love hearing Meri's story. So as I said in our very first conversation, grab a friend, put the kettle on and have the conversation.
Yes, please do.
Thank you, Meri.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.